Okay, hello everyone. How are we all doing tonight? This is epic. Oh, I'm so excited. So, welcome to the second ever live Coffee and a Good Vibe event. So excited. My name is Ayesha Sehra, and for those of you who do not know me, I am the host of Coffee and a Good Vibe, and I am so immensely grateful to have each and every one of you here tonight. I know it's going to be loud, but every single one of you in this room is meant to be here tonight. And because you made it here, I just want to honor each and every one of you for your time, your energy, your presence. It truly means the world. Now, when I was thinking about how I wanted to kick off and intro the night, I got very caught up in my head and about my words and about saying the right things. And then I was like, hold up, Ayesha. Just go back to why you started even wanting to put these things on and host these in the first place. And that is truly connection. To make one feel seen, heard, understood, less alone on these infinite and abundant life journeys that we are all on. And to know that even on your loneliest of days and your darkest of times when we feel most alone, to know that you are never truly alone. And if you can come here to these events and feel connected, come into this room and feel seen, heard, understood, then I know that my purpose and all the hard work that's gone into putting on these events is being so abundantly fulfilled. And part of getting to be a podcast host, I get to interview and hopefully create a really warm and welcoming space for everyone I interview to feel like they can open up and share real and vulnerable answers that we are all seeking to hear in conversations. Not the cookie cutter stuff, but the real stuff, the vulnerable stuff, because in you opening up and sharing your light and vulnerabilities lies such an infinite amount of power for other people to recognize theirs. So in doing just that and fostering a really safe space tonight, I know there's a lot of people here, but I want you all to know that you can just come and show up and be as you are, because as you are is more than enough. And we can drop these fronts that we put up of having it all together all the time. I'm gonna go first, and I'm gonna open up a little bit and share a little bit of my heart on my sleeve in hopes that it would inspire you tonight to do the same with everyone you connect with. So if there's one quote to sum up my last year, it would be the quote that it is not lonely at the beginning, it is not lonely at the top, but it is lonely in the middle. And I know that that quote sounds kind of dark, but it's not. I feel like this past year, as much it may look one way on the outside, on the inside, it was kind of a very lonely and dark year for me. And I think when you have someone in your life that you love more than anything get really sick, and all of a sudden, you start to have a new perspective and outlook on how you view life. And for me personally, this made me start to question and audit every single area of my life. I started to question why I was seeking certain relationships in my life, why I was seeking to be seen by certain people or chasing certain outcomes. Was it for a need to be validated or for a need to be accepted or approved by others? And what I found was that I was chasing happiness outside of myself. I was saying, oh, when I get X, then I will be happy. Or, no, when I feel X, then I will be happy. And it is a forever losing game when we play it that way. And as much as it's really scary and almost intimidating to sit with yourself in solitude and really create space for yourself to go within, I really encourage it, because what I found was we all have this voice within us, this voice of love, this voice of positive belief, of inspiration, of joy, of faith. But somehow along the way, with all the chaos and external noise of society, we can let other people's fears and limiting beliefs run the show for us. And what we focus on expands. And I think through seeing my dad suffer so much last year, from that point on, I made a promise to myself that I will always place my heart, my intention, and my focus where it counts. And every single day in life, we get a choice, right? When we wake up in the morning, we can choose to play the victim and not approach life with a grateful heart. And life is a mirror, right? What we put out, it comes right back. And our stories and our narratives and our thoughts and our beliefs that we cultivate truly do shape our reality. So that is why I think I get so fired up about doing this podcast, is because yes, like with a podcast, you get to interview and you can dive into the business and the strategy, which we will, and it's so amazing. But more importantly, I like to tap into the internal game. Like, what makes you the abundant being that you are from the inside that creates the epic results on the outside? So today, we're going to do just that. We have a full panel packed. We have an amazing panel of speakers who I'm going to welcome to the stage now, and we are going to kick it off. Okay, guys, are you ready? So in typical Coffee and a Good Vibe fashion, I am going to get all my amazing speakers to kind of, each of you go give a little bit of background on your brand, who you are, just to give the audience a little context if they don't know.
What's up, everyone? My name is Jay Kassan. I started a brand called Movement. We're a watch and accessories brand. We sold in 2018, and since then I've been doing investing primarily in CPG products.
Hey everyone, I'm Josh Kaplan, CEO of New Republic and Melrose Place. New Republic's multi-brand retailer online, primarily focused on everyday essentials. And Melrose Place, I got some fans in the back, the Nosotros team, respect. Amazing tequila if you haven't had it in the back. Hey guys. We're focused on being comfortable in your own skin.
How's it going, everyone? Ayesha, thanks for having us. This is amazing. Awesome room. I'm David Greenfeld. I'm the founder and CEO of Dream Pops, and we are reimagining all dessert experiences with 100% plant-based ingredients. Excited to be here. What's up?
What's going on? My name is Stephen Borrelli, CEO and founder of Cuts, and we started out as creating T-shirts, and now we're a full-blown men's apparel business, and we were founded in 2017.
What's up? My name is Nate Forster. I'm the CEO and founder of NEOU Fitness. So we are a digital wellness app based out of New York. Really simple for me. I wanted to create a great digital wellness experience that was affordable. That was for everyone, where we could help you on your mission to be the best version of yourself.
Beautiful. Okay, so we're going to dive right into it. We're not going to waste any time. First question is very tactical. So a lot of people who have a brand, they may not have any outside funds. They may be using all personal money to really start and scale this business. So let's say you have $25,000 to really get this brand up and running. Where would you strategically place that money for the largest ROI back? For all the questions, we're just like leaving it there. It's like very open.
I'll take it. Cuts, we haven't raised outside capital, and so this one's sort of close to home for us. We launched a Kickstarter, and I think to help frame that question best, I think the stage is important to help answer it. So assuming you're under $1 million in sales and you do have a product, because my first suggestion would be if you don't have product, invest in buying product. But if you have product and you're looking to get off the ground and to make some sales, I would just go gift product to real customers who you think can be true ambassadors, not necessarily people who have the biggest following or have a large audience, people that will truly be ambassadors for you and ones that will spread the word for you. So and really go the bootstrap grassroots approach.
Love it.
Very brave, Stephen. So if we're also making the assumption that you have a product and you're shipping it to customers, one thing that folks tend to forget is that your package has a 100% open rate. So when you have a conversion, somebody buys your product, it gets shipped to their home, that's not the end of the relationship, it's the beginning. And so being able to engage that customer, adding things into the package that are either surprising and delightful, things that help tell your story, or things that continue your relationship and build more long-term value is a great way for you to insert yourself into the conversation at a very low cost.
I'll chime in quickly because we don't have a product business, but if you're very early on in your process, for me it was about what's the why, what problem am I solving, that first money coming in, create a plan, have a strategy, because it's going to be really important for execution long term when you're trying to win or figure out what the next steps are. Use that first money to think about what the plan is and how you can solve the problem that you're attacking.
No, I love that. Moving into the other stage. So I know we have such a diverse panel of founders and entrepreneurs who've been through raising money and also investors. So I would love to ask the question of, someone's looking to raise money for their brand. What are the best tips, practices you guys can provide on attaining funding and investors for your brand?
Yeah, so talk to a lot of founders that are trying to raise money in the early days. I actually would not really recommend going to VCs or institutional investors. One of my earliest investors is actually sitting right here. So I think founders and other entrepreneurs and operators are some of the best investors. I've got a couple other brands that I've invested in here, small checks, but the value that you can get from 3, 5, or 7 founder operator investors is massive, and that's actually going to get you to a place where you're a lot more appealing to an institutional investor. So that would be my recommendation.
Yeah, I mean, just to add on to that, I think having some sort of, whether it's a deck or something shareable that you can, once you give to an angel, they can send it to their friends or other contacts that they have, but just not being scared to get out there and, like, you know, living in LA or New York or anywhere that has a network like this. I mean, someone knows someone who is looking to invest or has started a company or just has a network. So, you know, getting out there, Instagram DMs, like literally anything, it really doesn't matter. I've had it all, and you know, some of my favorite companies I've invested in has just been either referrals or an Instagram DM or LinkedIn.
Be careful what you wish for in here.
Send it.
I would say 2 things. One, meet Jake. Find some time. He's right there. One piece of advice I would say for anyone that's fundraising, we have raised quite a bit of money into NEOU, and it is all venture or funds. So a lot of finance there. You're going to fail. So get ready to get punched in the face about 150 times before you land a punch back. And that's how it's going to go. And it's okay. So you can fall down, fall down, fall down. You're going to have to ask a lot. But if you stick with it, and you will persevere. It'll get there. But get ready to get knocked down.
Anyone else have anything to add?
So I'll try not to be terribly prescriptive as a former venture capitalist, but team, of course, is number one. Traction. So prove that what you're doing is working, and it doesn't have to be a few $1 million in sales. Just show the upward trajectory, show that there's staying power with your brand, with your product, and that people want to come back. And then your moat. So how are you different than others, and how can you ensure that your product can be independently fruitful without any competitive, call it, issues, to be candid? Yeah, I think that's the pretty easy formula.
Love it. And guys, there will be Q&A after too, so just get questions ready. But my next topic that I kind of want to go into is more of like the real side of entrepreneurship, if you guys can open up a little bit, because we all know entrepreneurship can be tough. And with social media, we only sometimes share one side when there's so much that goes on behind the scenes. So I would love if any of you guys can go down memory lane of time in your business where you hit an adversity or a curveball and you didn't know how you're going to get through. It was not a good time. If you can go back and share what that looked like, how it felt, how you got through it, because you did. And I think it would just be really insightful for someone here listening and inspiring for someone listening at home, because we'll be out after.
There's been probably 5 times that movement almost went out of business. So I think that, there was one specific time where we basically ordered into too much inventory and didn't have the money to afford that. And we were living off like a month or 2 of cash and had to scramble to figure that out. But I think something that was like more, I guess, closer to home to people who are starting a company, we wanted to launch on Kickstarter, which was like the gorilla. And they denied us time and time again. And it wasn't until we went to Indiegogo to launch that we actually found the success. But there's been just so many times that it's all about ups and downs, and I think it's just continuing to not take no for an answer, pivot, and being willing to pivot too. I think is one of the biggest things. So,
when we first launched, we wanted to be the daily harvest of ice cream. I know it's a brilliant idea. So 2018 D2C, everything is D2C. mattresses, sunglasses, you name it. So ice cream naturally made a lot of sense. So we launched 2018 and quickly realized, we had ice cream ending up on people's doorsteps, melting. We were realizing that there was no way we could acquire customers. We would need tens of millions of dollars to operate a frozen and ice cream D2C business. Quickly, assessed the viability, went into retail. At the time, in 2018, retail was not sexy. No one wanted to sell in retail. It's actually become a really amazing channel, and it's our only channel right now. So I would just say, huddling with your team and being ready to flip, listen to the market and realize, obviously, ice cream, direct to consumer, not ideal. Put it in a grocery store, and you'll have a higher probability of succeeding.
So we were affected by something called COVID-19. And our warehouse was shut down about 2 years ago. And we do all of our fulfillment ourselves. So I guess there's now a statute of limitations. I can say this out loud. But so we just secretly would go into the warehouse with the lights off and the doors closed, and myself, my design director, my head of merchandising, people who are spending every day in front of a computer, were picking, packing, and shipping all of our orders. And it's a testament to the resilience of your team, knowing that people around you working towards the greater good will do what you need to do to get done, and that's what it takes. And we would go into the warehouse from 7 to 4 and then go in the office after that. And we knew that if we didn't do that, we couldn't afford to keep our business open. So it's not like we had a choice in the matter.
One thing I would just say is you never know who can really help you. We were trying to move our production from LA to overseas to save on margin. And I was playing basketball in LA, and this kid comes up to me and he's like, "Hey, whatever you're making your shirts for, I can make them for half the price." And I looked at him, I'm like, "All right, yeah. Let me play my basketball game." And we go to China, and we're there, and we're having the time of our lives, but we were running around with our heads cut off. We were going to factories, and we really had no clue what we were doing. And then he calls me, and he's like, "Hey, you're in China, right?" And he's like, "Trust me, just take a drive. I'll get a driver for you from Hong Kong." And we got in this car. The guy didn't know any English, and he has a sign, Mr. Borrelli. And it's a 4-hour drive into this place I couldn't even say it on the map. And we get there, and it just was like a slice of heaven. It was this nice little Chinatown with we could see where our fabric was going to get milled and where the factory was, and it was like, man, all right, we can really press go now. And so, don't take anyone for granted, because I think I could have easily just blown him off, and I did. It wasn't for Sean, our director of operations, that jumped on the call with him and actually gave him the time of day. So you never know who can really help you open that next door to help push through those adversities.
No, I love it. Moving back onto scaling brands, you guys have all demonstrated this in your own brands and industries so well with product innovation and scaling. And I think that as entrepreneurs in any market, it's really saturated, and you always want to stay at the cutting edge in your industry. So I would love to ask anything you guys can share on your strategy, your approach to scaling your brand with new SKUs, new product lines, and I think also touching on the fact that you're diversifying your brand, but you're still not diluting it, because your brands are just enhancing, getting better, and staying at the top of your respective niches. So anything you guys can share on your approach there?
So for us, COVID a little bit different than these guys. Digital wellness, COVID, awesome. Really, really good. Really fucking good. But it was interesting. Awesome, doing really well, and all the big increases across the board. If you can think of a KPI like increase. And then coming out of it, I would get these reports every month. Okay, who's in the space? Who are we competing against? Right? I like to compete. I'm very competitive, and so I'd like to just know who's there. Like, what's the competition? And it started with 8 companies, and then 10 companies, and then after COVID, 150 companies out of nowhere. And so, talk about innovation. We had to take a step back and figure out how to differentiate, because the space became very saturated. And so we did different things, like 2A classes being one of the first platforms where you basically could have a Zoom call built into the platform. So you could do a class, you could see the instructor could also see you, you could see your friends and talk, and there'd be coaching, and that didn't really exist in the space. And it was really, we had to cut from other budgets, step back, look at everything, and spend more on innovation because we had to differentiate. So I think it's really important when you're running a company, understand who you're competing against and try to see the white space, what you could do better, where you think there's a void, because you can get, small wins there, and that can help for the bigger wins.
On that note, one thing I would suggest is really know who you are. We see a lot of brands that do similar things that we do, but they're confusing their customer in the category that they're approaching. So sometimes innovating is actually doing less and really focusing on what makes you great. Because sometimes if you try to do more, you're going to confuse the customer and you're going to be too wide. And so kind of really knowing who you are and then just attack that, and then you'll be known for something rather than just known for everything.
I was going to talk a little bit about non-negotiables. So with Dream Pops, we couldn't commercially scale it. And so we, started making this in tiny commercial kitchens, and every co-packer and investor was like, you should just, use a traditional popsicle co-manufacturer and use a moon shape. Like, what's the big deal with this shape? And the shape is our brand language. That geometry, we have, a design patent on it. It's what's recognizable about the brand, and not, not allowing yourself to just listen to third-party opinions. So went from small commercial kitchens to building our own factories to actually scale this product with our team. It took 4 years to do it. Now, most people would have just said, why do that? The CapEx required to scale that's so complex. But that's the reason that we've been able to differentiate and create defensibility and launch other products with that geometric brand language. So just being, dead set on how you're going to innovate and not allowing third parties to kind of, skew you away from that.
I would just say also be careful about diversifying too quickly. With Movement, we started with watches for the first 3-4 years, and then did sunglasses. And I feel like it probably took about, it was 80% of our energy to launch a part of our business that was, 10-15% of the business. And I see a lot of people who get excited about ideas, but, they take their eye off, where they're investing their time and where the money's coming from. And I just think that oftentimes becomes just the time suck of resources, money, et cetera.
Love it. My next area I kind of want to dive into is a topic that I really don't think is talked about enough, but it's so important. And that is, so as entrepreneurs, it's internal fulfillment, identity, it's on that whole realm. But as entrepreneurs, when you're working so endlessly on a business, it's a beautiful thing that you're working so much, and it can be very beneficial, but it comes to a point where you're attaching your life's purpose and your mission to it. And sometimes you can almost lose sight of who you are as a person without the business. And I'm going to throw it to you, Jake, first, because I know on your solo episode on Coffee and a Good Vibe, you talked about this, and I thought it was very enlightening, how once Movement was sold, it was almost like a part of you was taken away. And it's an interesting part that I don't think is talked about on the journey, so I don't know if you can frame it and open up a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's all over the place. I'm still going through it. I left the company like 8 months ago, and I was there for eight years, and before that, I've been an entrepreneur my whole life. And I think, I was very destination focused with Movement. I knew that I wanted to sell the company one day, and I thought that, life was going to be like I was going to get the fulfillment and everything. And there's elements of that. Really what you get is freedom and time to figure out, what you actually want to do with your life and what you enjoy. I don't think that Movement was my life purpose. I think in terms of identity, like if I were to introduce myself 3 years ago, Movement would come up immediately. Now today, that's just a chapter of my life, just like, a sport that someone played or a college or anything else. So I don't know. I think it's just, it's important to enjoy the process and yeah, just like focus on, who you are outside of just what you do for a living. And I think in LA, it's tough because, one of the first, you can't have a conversation with someone in LA that doesn't start or end with
like these conversations here. I wonder.
What do you do? Which is fine. It's why we all moved to LA, because our friends back home are having kids and doing stuff that like we're not. But yeah, like it's why we moved here. We're all driven. We want to succeed. We want to live very meaningful lives. But I've just found that this sounds obvious, but there's so much more than just obviously what we do for a living.
I love that. I kind of want to throw it to you, Josh, because with New Republic and Melrose Place, I understand that you're the CEO of the brand, and the founder, correct me if I'm wrong, it's Dean Murphy.
Yeah, that's my partner.
So What's your, like, do you have that same relationship where you feel like that's your baby, or do you feel kind of like a degree of separation because you're brought in as CEO?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think to first answer a comment that Jake made about how we put our company first, I had spent some time working in Japan, and one of the most interesting things about the culture there is that on your business card, the company name is above your own. And it's a way for you to signify that the company comes first. And so here in the US, we have a very different culture where, it's Josh Kaplan on a business card, and then on the back, it's New Republic. But what we find ourselves doing is equating ourselves with our work, with what we do. It's who we are. And it's hard for us to divorce that from our conversations. And so for me, I consider myself to be a builder, someone who is curious, someone who can build a team around him and drive towards a common goal. And I feel fortunate to have the opportunity to work with incredible businesses over the many years in many capacities. And to me, it's just one chapter to the next.
Anyone else have anything to add in on this topic?
I think it's really important. My journey has been years as an entrepreneur, doing different things. And one thing that I've struggled with a lot is figuring out how to also be really happy during that journey, because you could be happy in your workspace and with your team and what you're building, but then what do you do in your free time, if you have any free time? That was also something that I've struggled with, is it's okay to have free time. That's a good thing. But I had to figure that out, and I'm still trying to go through it, but you have to be happy in times when you're not working, and that will make work better. So I would say pay attention to what makes you smile and the things that you like to do and who you like to spend time with, because that's going to be really important along the journey for sure, is personally what makes you happy.
Love it. Anyone else have anything to add in? Okay, my next question's for all of you. So another thing that I love asking on the podcast is your habits and routines, because the things we do daily truly do shape our reality and the results we get out of life. So I would love to ask each of you if you can provide one non-negotiable habit that you have to do every single day to fill up your cup to make you the abundant human that you are.
I mean, it's really boring, but work out.
What's your routine? Where do you go?
I don't really have, it's not as much routine, it's just making sure I'm active every single day and trying to eat clean. I feel like, my 3 non-negotiables would have been eat clean, working out, and then getting a good night's sleep. It's as basic as it is, but it's like, you're gonna feel better and be happier and so forth if you do those 3 things. And I know when I was running my business, I wasn't doing any of those things. So that's something that kind of comes true to me.
By the way, that basic, it's still so hard for people to do that. So, let's be serious. Doing that is already an achievement. I don't know if this is an everyday thing, but for me, the non-negotiable is travel. You have to travel, no matter what, even if it's semi-local. Get out of your comfort zone, especially now more than ever when people are working from home and walking from the bed to the couch to the kitchen table to the desk to the kitchen to the couch to the bed, and that's your day. It's the only way to stay sane. And if you do have the fortunate opportunity to travel outside of the country, do it as often as you possibly can.
Where were you last week? Tell everyone.
Milan for Fashion Week.
Love Milan. That's awesome. Yes.
No way.
It was fun. For me, about 3 years ago, I started working with a guy named Kai, who's a life coach. And so every Sunday we do about an hour together, but tried 15-minute exercise of gratitude, visualization, and breath work. And I've done that for 1,148 days straight.
What?
And when you do that consistently, your life actually, I've just seen some really crazy changes in my life. So I'd highly recommend every day. I have to actually text him so I know the number every day and just keep myself accountable. So highly recommend it.
Cool. Similar to Jake, I love to wake up, try to get to the gym between 6 and 7, have lemon water on the way there. And then when I get into the office, I try to get there around 7:45, and I do this journaling, which I call SOAP. It's scripture, observation, application, and prayer. I just read my Bible and then write for 15 minutes, and then put on my Christian hymn music and kind of jam out for a second, rebalance, and then start the day. And that's kind of how I get going. So that's what I do.
I definitely should have went first. So I'm a big health is wealth guy. So fitness and sleep and eating, 3 for me that are the most important. But one thing I would add that's new, that I highly recommend, I try to do something nice for somebody else that I don't know as much as possible. So it could be anything. Homeless person or someone that maybe you see they drop something, you pick it up, or it really could be anything. But I've found that the smallest things that you can do for somebody that you don't know, you feel good about it, but you also don't know how much you're helping them. And so it's like there's a lot of people out there that need help, especially today. So kind of adding that in to try to help people. And normally when you'd kind of walk by, or you're busy, because we're all busy, we're trying to do something important, and it takes time and effort. But try to help someone. It could be really small, but try to add that into your routine.
Love that. Such beautiful answers. My last question, everyone's going to answer this one, and it's just a fun closing one, but it is to name the season that you are in of your life. So almost like a soundtrack title. And I'll go first to give you some time to think about something. But my season is called Let Go to Let In. And the reason why I'm calling it that is because this year is a year of expansion for me. And in order to expand, I have to say no and create boundaries because I only have such a bandwidth. So it's in order to say yes to the abundant opportunity, you have to say no. So Let Go to Let In is what I'm titling it. Jake, you're first because you're beside me.
Oh, man, I mean, fuck. Not to be dark, but I think that, the last couple years have been tough, I think, just mentally for me with transitioning out of movement and just this kind of an identity crisis. I feel like what most people go through when they're retiring from their job of, 60 years old, or an athlete retiring from a career-long thing. So, the last couple years have been a mixture of, the word I would use is pain, because it has been like a difficult time, but also growth, because with pain comes, growth. So I think I'm transitioning from pain out to growth.
Love it.
Yeah, should have gone first. I'd say mine is probably season 3 Tokyo Drift. Shoot, I don't know. I think for me right now, this is the time to put in the work, and I feel it every day, and I feel fortunate to be able to spend most of my time doing what I love. I have no kids at the moment. I'm not obviously, but out of my parents' house that I grew up in, so I feel pretty fortunate that now my time is my own, and I want to use it.
Sorry.
Is there another?
Great question. I'm going to have to say my title is going to be Always Worthy. And I recently was able to hang with a group of my best friends over the last weekend. And we were, with this really impressive shaman who told us that some of the most successful people she's ever met with are successful because they think that they're unworthy. And then the way that they can level up is knowing that they are worthy. And so what I'm focused on now is, instead of trying to, prove myself that to others that I'm not worthy, it's unlocking that next level of always being worthy. So
I love this.
Mine would be, we have a hidden URL called whogonstopme.com. So check it out and see what it takes you. But Cuts in the office, we're trying to create the next $1 billion brand. And so every day I walk into the office and, I jokingly tell the team, who's going to stop us? Let's go get it. And so that's definitely the phase we're in right now.
That's good. That's good. We have a saying at NEOU, our slogan is always on. So for us, I think, I'll put a situation for you. So I was a professional tennis player, and I retired from the tour when I was 25. And where I feel like I am today, on my kind of journey as an entrepreneur. I'm probably in a grand slam, and I'm in the quarters in the third set tiebreaker with where I am currently on this business. So digital wellness is very competitive today. And I'm on the changeover, like I'm sitting down in my seat and I'm like, fuck, how do I gotta win this thing, right? To make it to the next round and then the next round. And I don't know what those rounds are and what they will be, but I'm like there and I'm in it. So I'm very, very focused, and there's extreme pressure. So I'm on that tiebreaker changeover for sure.
Love it. Okay, guys. So since this is a live podcast, we have some very proud podcast sponsors, and one of them is here tonight, Clearstem Skincare. They are incredible. We have the two co-founders, Kaylee Christina and Danielle Grunich, and they have a special offering for the community.
Thank you, Ayesha. I first just wanted to take a second to just stop in this present moment. On theme with this podcast, a lot of times we can move so quickly and things can be over before we've even had a second to appreciate it. I've seen how hard Ayesha has worked to put this on, but more importantly, besides the hard work she's put in, I've seen how intentional she was putting this on. I saw her handpick each one of these amazing speakers. I saw her cultivate the good vibe that she wanted here with the group of people, with the brands that she wanted, with the activations, with the experience, with the conversation she wanted to cultivate here. So I first just want to say I'm so grateful for you, and thank you for putting this on for all of us. With that said, the reason why I'm up here, my name is Kaylee. I'm the co-founder of Clearstem. This is Danielle, my other amazing co-founder and expert genius formulator behind every single one of our products. We created Clearstem because acne products age your skin and anti-aging products break you out. So you have two completely industries working against each other, destroying your skin in the process. On top of that, you have toxic skincare versus non-toxic. So we decided to create a brand that was anti-aging, anti-acne, and non-toxic, that was clinically driven to create change in your skin while also creating positive change and keeping it clean and non-toxic for you. We have an amazing activation over there. Everyone gets to leave with a product. We do have a QR code over there, so we ask everyone to please scan that, go to the landing page because we are here and we would love to retarget you with ads. So please go to that landing page. After you do that, feel free to take your product. If you have any questions with what product you want or questions with your skin, please come talk to Danielle and I. Thank you, guys. You want to say anything?
Yeah, thank you, Ayesha, you are just like such an angel, and we love working with you. Like the whole vibe, your whole energy, everything you do is just pure love, and it's just it's so inspiring to be around you and in your presence. So thank you for putting this on.
Yeah. Thank you. Aww. Okay, we are not done yet. Now I'm gonna actually open the floor to you guys. So Q&A is open for all these amazing speakers. I'll just, cause it is like a crazy big room, just raise your hand and I'll repeat your question, and you can direct it to anyone. You could direct it to a specific person. You guys are in control. Kira, if I know your name, I'll say it too.
Okay. Wow, I really have to project. Okay, so we talked a little bit about raising funds and kind of like the challenge in raising funds, but less so, I guess, about what you look for in investors. So strategically, when you have pick a winner, which there's so much money to give now, I feel like it's becoming more of like a seller's market in a sense. What is the rhetoric that you look for in an investor, whether it be an angel or institutional?
So we've raised quite a bit of financial backing. Some good, some bad. So I can be transparent there. We've picked some really good dance partners. We've also picked some really shitty ones. And that's hard because you're stuck with them. And so you have to kind of deal with that. For me now, when we look at fundraising, which we still do quite a bit, it's about kind of the history of that fund. So I'd look and see what bets they've made. And I also ask them, do they bet on the product and the platform, or do they bet on the entrepreneur? Because that's a big question for a lot of investors. It's not necessarily about what you're doing, right? Our first big investment that we got was a $5 million check. And I had no right to get a $5 million check. I mean, it was like rainbows and unicorns on like a scribble pad. There was nothing there. And when we left the meeting, he said, you could have been selling, popsicles, sneakers, cars, it didn't matter. Like, we liked you, so we want to invest in this because we believe you're going to figure out the win. So when you're looking for someone to invest, my recommendation is to find someone that believes in you, because I think that will help you along your journey, not so much focused on what the product is or the platform.
I think it's a great question. There's a lot of funds that say one thing in terms of what their investment philosophy is and then actually act with their investments, and finding partners that are founder friendly that realize that if you're building a business that's capital intensive, you're going to dilute the founder. You need to keep the founder incentivized to like build that business, or else you're going to have a ship with no captain. So founders who actually act on a lot of the things that they're promising, that believe in the longer term vision, and that also are friendly and nice and willing to help when things go wrong and you do fuck up and have an issue. And instead of being scared to call that investor being so supportive when things are terrible is what I would say. Hearing from other founders that have them on their cap table is probably the best bet.
Anyone else? Any other who has yet?
Yeah, this is primarily for Steven and Jake, but obviously the whole group. You guys have done a lot to build your brands based on influencer marketing, especially doing it with maybe low funds at the beginning. I'm just curious how you built that program, and especially in the new space emerging with TikTok, amongst other things, how you would sort of see that unfolding or the best way to do it.
We have the saying internally is shirts on backs. So I think as a founder or someone that works in a startup, you need to get really good at identifying who's going to be a good fit. Because if it's a pretty simple equation. If you're doing a good job identifying the right partner, and then you say, hey, like for us, we say, hey, we got a shirt with your name on it. We think you'd be a good fit. And when we're just introing the relationship, we don't ask for anything back. And then and we've done this with NFL MVPs, Damian Lillard, name a sports player we've done it with. And most of them, a lot of them don't respond, or they look at it and it says red and you're like, oh, come back. But if you do it enough, you'll strike some gold. And, in the beginning we focused on minor league baseball players. And one of the guys was Walker Buehler. We gave it to him, and then he liked it. He got called up, and then we were all over the Dodgers locker room. Then the season ends, and then guys are traded teams. Then before we know, we're in every locker room, and now we actually tell certain players no, because there's weird in the locker room dynamics of exclusivity. But just being able to identify the right person that rocks with your brand and making sure it's a good product are part of the formula to have success there.
Pretty much just to add to that, I think, there's platforms like Grin, which I think help with like influx and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, we would seed product to a lot of micro influencers, people who weren't even influencers, and that was successful. But I think just to add to what Borrelli said, making sure that the influencer is actually someone who would rock your product, depending on what it is. Like, when we sent watches to athletes or celebrities, like no one wanted a movement watch. They wanted a Rolex or whatever. Like, it just wasn't authentic. So, we had NBA players wearing it, but in a picture, but then they take it off right after. So it just wasn't authentic. Where Cuts, like, they're actually wearing it. It's like the most amazing thing to see. But so just making sure whoever you're seeding it to isn't, wasted energy. It's like they're actually someone who would use the product.
Anyone else? Ooh, Skylar, say you first.
Hello, everyone. So question. So as an entrepreneur, you're bound to just have a lot of lows that you're faced with. So curious, was there a particular mindset or resource or book or even a mentor that really helped you navigate through those tough times where there's just a lot of uncertainty and unknown?
Yeah, happy. So for me personally, I think there's John Paul DeJoria has a great interview where when he was first building Paul Mitchell, he would go door to door selling. He learned how to sell by going door to door. And so in the early days at Dream Pops, I literally would go grocery store to grocery store, like I went to Bristol Farms to their headquarters without a meeting and forced the buyer to take the product. And so what I would say is if you don't give up and you just go to the next door, if you keep selling and you just refuse to take a no, like eventually you're going to get a yes. So I think that for me resonated and is a great motivator.
On that note, I think me and Jake are a good example. Jake hired Ethan, who is here. We were roommates in college, and I think finding context is super important because I didn't know how to do e-commerce or fashion or make shirts or any of that, but I found Jake, and I got a little bit of context. So, okay, this guy did it. Let me really study what he does, and then you could find the people to kind of shape your path, so to speak. So I think try to find that little box that you want to live in, and then make friends with them. And Jake was nice enough to let me do his Christmas parties and let me be a fly on the wall in the early days.
For me, I didn't finish high school and I didn't go to college, so I'm uneducated, and I have no problem saying that. I learned from mentors. So I was lucky enough to fundraise from really smart people like CEO of Samsung, big guys that run some of the biggest hedge funds in the world, founders of companies like Fresh Direct and things like that have all invested in a lot of my projects and got my education that way and then in the streets. So mentors are really, really important. And I would say the one thing for the lows, because there's going to be some lows, perspective. Just think about those lows. Have some perspective when you're in those lows and think about what it really means and show some patience. But if you have some perspective, you'll make it out.
So yeah, I think just finding founders that are in your in your position, so you can just relate and talk about the trials and tribulations, or someone who's done it. There's apps even that can connect you to other founders. Like there's so many different ways to just connect to people. I think just knowing that whatever you're going through, other people either are going through as well or have been through. Even just that makes you kind of feel a little bit better, just knowing misery loves company. But I think reaching out and just connecting with people, and then you make friends because it's people like talking about what they're working on, what they're dealing with, and I think you'd be surprised at just reaching out to a few people.
Yeah, in the back.
As far as content creators, videographers and photographers, how do you direct or choose who you work with?
I'm just gonna repeat the question because I got a note that I gotta repeat it. As far as content videographers, how do you choose who you're gonna work with directly?
So I think this is rare, but we have in-house videographer and photographer. We do it because we appreciate the continuity. Our brand is very important. All of our brands have very specific ethos, and we want to control the narrative. And so I think that's when we think of how we work with those individuals and how we hired them and what we look for, a lot of it's the empathy. Do they understand what our customer cares about, and can they communicate it in an effective way? And oftentimes, a perfect example is our footwear. Our sneakers are incredibly comfortable, and that's a great reason to buy shoes. But very rarely does someone wake up and think, the shoes I have on are not comfortable, so I need to go find comfortable shoes. And so we go a little bit deeper and think of what are the moments in your life where you will find yourself looking for a pair of new shoes, and how can we create a story around it?
So NEOU is a content company. So we have a lot of producers, editors that work directly for us. That's what we do for a living. A piece of advice to anyone that's in content out there: you will be very surprised on what companies need content. If at any time in this world content is king, it is now. So the world runs through content. So open up your mind, expand a little bit, but you'd be surprised. There's a lot of companies out there that need it and don't know how to get it. There's a lot of opportunity in content. So go knock on doors, ask a lot of questions.
Just to add one final thing, just a firm believer in volume of content and betting on people, and it's how bad does that director, videographer really want it. There are people that'll show up that day at your house, and you share a vision with them, and you watch that they're really driven and dying to really pursue this, and you bet on them, and over time, you watch them evolve. I mean, even right now, Josh is making a TikTok of this moment, and he's a monster content creator, and it started with me and him making TikToks in our office. So I think it's really just showing up and going the extra mile and showing how bad you want it.
Love that. Any other questions? Yeah.
So Josh mentioned having a team that's willing to go the distance. So with COVID came the Great Resignation. So what are your keys to scaling and maintaining a winning team?
So keys to scaling and maintaining a winning team.
So I'll say this for everyone in the room. It is so hard right now to find great talent. And it is so hard to keep talent. And it is so hard to get anyone to do anything.
Give us some positivity.
Straight up. Having said that, at the end of the day, you find people that understand why as opposed to what. And I think that's one of the most important things that can come across when you look at a resume. I've been hiring people for 15 years, and I'm not looking at where they went to school and the company they were at before and all the buzzwords that if you Google or look on LinkedIn on what you have to add and how you're a team player or detail-oriented or whatever else, the other things TikTok tells you not to say. We look for people that understand our mission, and we are aligned in where they want to go personally, because the best way to get people motivated is if they already are. And we try to empower them to succeed. I mean, most people who are looking for jobs are looking to grow within the organization. So if you can give them the tools to succeed, they'll use them.
My answer to that would be just have a great company. I know that's, easier said than done, but we get thousands of applications every day. And as soon as, back in 2 Augusts ago, we said, we're gonna work in the office every day. We don't care what the guidelines are. It's about building a brand. If you want to sign up to be a part of something special, you're gonna abide by those rules. And people want, that's true to us. And it's easy to find talent because we're true to who we are, and we have a great business. So I think. I think that's really important, because if you don't have a great business, like maybe you need to look at yourself in the mirror and say, I got to work on that. But if you have a great business, the right talent's going to come.
So one thing we had to deal with during COVID was we grew incredibly fast. And so I had to hire it was impossible. I mean, I never thought that I was going to have to hire so many people over Zoom in my whole entire life. And so we had all these employees for a year that I'd never even met in person as we scaled the business. And it was really difficult. One piece of advice that a lot of entrepreneurs and CEOs forget is that it's part of your job to make someone want to show up and work for you every single day. You have to make sure the company makes money, and you have to, raise the funds, and you have to make sure everything's good. But it's really important to remember your employees have to wake up and want to go to battle with you and work for you, and that's your job. And if you do that well, it'll be much easier to find people and keep them.
Okay, we'll take one more question. Yeah, Ben.
When bootstrapping a business, I know Steven mentioned he did it. What would you say your best advice is for ordering your first round and determining how much to order in the first go when you're still trying to build your customer base and find out your market to make sure that you still have money left over for other necessities?
In the beginning, that's so hard. Inventory was always a tough challenge. We either were selling too quick or we sold too much. I would just try to be a little conservative in the beginning. You don't want to take all your cash out, but for us, we didn't raise money, so every PO we had to sell out and then be profitable on the first order, and we had a little bit more each time, and we did that for years. The first 3 years, no one would give us lines of credit, and it was really hard. So we had to kind of take those bets, and so just be aggressive, but be conservative. One of the pieces of advice I would give is I wasn't a finance guy or an operations guy. I knew what product I wanted to create and the brand. And my first 2 people I brought on were numbers guys and operations guys. And I said, hey, let me press go as hard as I can, but you always tell me when to slow down or when we can't afford anything. And that yin and yang where I was always pressing it, but they were kind of holding me back is why we scaled and got to where we are today.
I would also say, I don't know why someone wouldn't crowdfund a business. today, especially if you're bootstrapped. I know it's changed a lot, and even if it's minimal amounts of capital that you can raise these days, I actually don't know, but it's just a free way to sell pre-order products, get it out in the market, get feedback, and even if you don't sell anything or if you don't hit your goal, at least you get feedback that you can then take an input into whatever that PO that you were going to place with your manufacturer. So it's a time commitment, it's resources, but I'd rather do that if capital is limited.
Anyone else have anything to add? Okay, well, I just have a couple notes before we wrap up and we enjoy the night and really connect with each other. But Coffee and a Good Vibe, this is a podcast, so this episode will be out on Coffee and a Good Vibe. So whatever platform you guys listen to podcasts, please subscribe to Coffee and a Good Vibe. We are on there. And additionally, each of these speakers, they've done, or Josh and Dave, they're next, but we have solo episodes with each of these speakers, so you can really just hear everything about them, their brand, who they are. And additionally, in this room, we have so many incredible entrepreneurs who've been on the podcast. So I'm pumped for you guys to connect with each other, but there's a lot of content on the podcast, so lots of episodes. And then before we go enjoy the night, I just want to shout out a merch collab that, thanks to Josh, we brought it to life. We have Coffee and a Good Vibe merch in collaboration with Melrose Place in New Republic. So if you guys scan the QR codes, we have them a couple around the room, but it'll take you to the New Republic website and you'll see us modeling the tracksuits and our dad hats. You can see all the styles we have. Additionally, in the room over there with the food, you can see the amazing quality and you can see the sizing and really just explore that. It would mean a lot if you would check out the merch. And lastly, I'm just going to shout out all of our sponsors so you guys know what's around the room. We have Taco Vega LA in that room. So we have tacos, we have House of Mac and Midday Squares for good snacks. We have Elavi and Toto right over there. They're sampling. You can meet the founders too, because we are in LA. Everyone is in LA. We have Nosotros Tequila for all your alcohol, and we have Hiyo for non-alcoholic beverage. We also have Barcode for hydrating, because it's a Wednesday night, so you want to hydrate at the same time. And lastly, we do have RVIVL, who's doing massages in the back room. We have a lot of brands. Clearstem skincare, and then Dream Pop's fridge in the back corner to try out all the products. Thank you guys so much for coming.